Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Christina, mom of 5, ages 1 through 13. Today I am bringing you along to plan with me for the week. It's Sunday night. I'm planning for the whole week, which I don't always do, but we are starting 2 new units this week. Don't always do that, but it just turned out that way. I'll give you an overview of what that looks like, but I'll mostly be focusing on the unit we're starting tomorrow because the second unit is more like a secondary unit and the one that we'll be starting towards the end of the week. And I'll probably shoot another video for that. So you'll get to see what it is and how I tie things together, but I won't be focusing on that one as much. So I mentioned in my spring curriculum picks video that one of the spring curriculums that we are starting is Square Foot Gardening by Campfire Curriculums. Now, I'm really excited about this for a couple of reasons. I won't get into it for too long because you can go back and watch my spring curriculum picks video, but one of them is that I've been wanting to try Campfire Curriculums, and the other one is because I've been wanting to have a successful garden. I have not been a successful gardener to date. So the last 2 years I sort of didn't try at all because I had given up, because a couple of years before that didn't work out so well, and the last couple of years I had 2 babies. So we are gonna try this unit, and what I'm excited about is that we can do it as a family. So a couple of things you'll see in this video today: how I plan and set up for a new unit, how I plan and set up for the week, and then also how I tie things together from different units that we're doing. If you've been following me either here on YouTube or on Instagram, you know that about a month or so ago, we started using Exploring Nature with Children, which is a year-long nature curriculum. There is a topic for every week of the year, and the topic for this coming week is trees, and the topic for the following week is plants. So I'm super excited because those things will tie in really nicely with our gardening unit. And then I'll also show you how I kind of bring my 2- and 5-year-old in on that with some free printables that will also tie in. And then hopefully this doesn't sound overwhelming. I don't always do this, but when things seem like they just come together, I go for it. And if it works out, great. And if we don't get to it, that's fine too. I also found a free unit that I just grabbed and downloaded. If I come across a free unit or a free download that I think we might want to use in the future, I just grab it, and then if it works out, I use it, and if not, I don't. And there was a free little snakes lesson, and just so happens that my 2-year-old has been really into like snakes and bugs and worms and stuff like that. So that definitely goes along with the gardening unit, and you could definitely find snakes in a garden. Hopefully we won't find any in our garden this year, but also because another tie-in, and another thing I'll show you briefly, but I'll cover more in another video, is how I set up the learning shelf here in the playroom. It's focused for my 1, 2, and 5-year-old, but the older boys definitely jump in and play with some of the things that are fun for them as well. So another way the snakes lesson will tie in is that one of the things I'm focusing on as a learning target this week for my 2-year-old is colors. And so one way that I'll do that is I'll include this snakes color puzzle on the learning shelf. And obviously it's a snake, so that little snake lesson will be fun for him, but also I'm sure my older boys and my daughter will be really interested in learning about snakes. So that's just like a little thing I'll throw in there. If we get to it this week, great. If we don't, maybe we'll cover it next week. If it never seems to fit in, we won't do it. Not a big deal, but I'm gonna print it and have it ready to go so that when it seems like it would tie in, we have it. So if you're interested to see how I plan out for the week for ages 1 through 13 and how I plan out for starting a new unit, you're gonna see both of those things in this video. In the future, I'll show a video of how I plan out a week, or how I plan for a week on a week that we're not launching a new unit, just so you can see that it's not quite as much work and it might not be as overwhelming. But this is kind of one of those things that I have to do every few months. It's not something I do every week this much. So I'll try to point out the things that I would do on any given week, and then the things that definitely aren't an every week thing. So if you're interested in that, follow along. I'm currently printing everything. Some things I've pre-printed, like my teacher's guide type of things, but I'll talk to you about how I print stuff as well, so stay tuned. So when I go into print, I open up the digital file from my drive, and this is the pre-reader, and so I am just, for Gia, checking out the first few lessons, the first 4 to 5 lessons, and I'm going to print just a week's worth of lessons for this, just to make it a little bit more manageable because I'm printing so many different things. And it does say not to print this double-sided because there's some cutting, but what I'll typically do is I'll go through and see like how far I can get into it before there is something to cut, and I'll print those pages double-sided, and then the ones like this one that does require cutting, I'll just stop before I get to that one. So I'll just print the pages that I need. I do them double-sided, like I said, and in color because it's so much better in color. And then I go ahead and print that, and then I'll get other things done while that's printing, and then I'll move on to the next thing to print. So while those are printing, I'm going to change over the learning shelf and the bookshelf. So as I mentioned, I'm going to walk you guys through in another video how I set up my learning shelf, like how I decide what's going to be on there and all of that stuff. But for today, I'll just show you this was the learning shelf for last week, which focused on Easter and Passion Week. So I have a couple books there. I also have the cave nesting toy, which has been out for a couple weeks because caves also came up in the Burrows and Holes Ready to Read unit that we did with my 5-year-old. And then I find ways to tie it in for my older kids, which I'll show you. But we also use that as like the tomb for Jesus. And then these little people that we also used as like Jesus and the disciples. And then the bottom was more focused for my 2-year-old's learning goals for the last 2 weeks, which was shapes. And so I had the little shapes puzzle and little shapes book, and I did have shape roads on the floor, which I did take off yesterday because I washed the floors and I had them there for 2 weeks, so they were ready to go. So all of this will go. And then also same thing for our bookshelves. So all of these, except for this shelf, were all faith-based books about Easter and just about the Bible and prayer and all of those things. And so all of these will come off, except for our nature poem for each day of the year. That will stay. Rising Water and Hiding Place will stay because my boys are reading those, so I'll leave them out for at least the first couple days and just make sure they're still into them. I do encourage them to finish books, obviously, but if they're really not into it, then I'll let them just, you know, move on, maybe come back to another time. And I will leave out the National Geographic because I think talking about clean air will definitely tie in to our unit. Okay, so both the learning shelf and the bookshelves have been swapped out, so I'll show you what I did here. So because the pond unit is coming up towards the end of the week, I did swap out the cave for this little wave nesting toy. I did the rainbow fish because it goes along with this little fishing set. This is kind of cool because our focus is colors for this week for my 2-year-old, and then there's also numbers on there, so some matching, some kind of fine motor stuff. And then on the bottom, our main focus is the colors. So I have just like these colored blocks that we've had for a while to teach colors, and obviously they can just have fun playing with those, especially my 1-year-old. They're nice and soft because they're silicone. This little highlights hello. The focus of it is all about colors. And then that little snake toy that I mentioned earlier. And what's cool about this for my older kids is that they can try to learn the Spanish words for the colors. And this will be like a little bit of a review or a spiral back through, because on Valentine's Day, I did have hearts with each color with the Spanish word. That was also a free printable, so that's just an added bonus. So that's our learning shelf for the week. And then for the bookshelves up top, I did keep our poetry book, as I mentioned. And then I put nature all around plants, nature all around bugs, because obviously plants and bugs would go along with the garden unit. Then here I have up in the garden, down in the dirt, and the seed is sleepy. The seed is sleepy will go with the tree study for this week with exploring nature with children, but then also obviously the gardening unit. That's self-explanatory for the garden. Then down here I have the tiny seed, which is a board book, so that will obviously go along with our gardening unit. Where's the ladybug will also go along with the gardening unit. That's a really cute one because it's like a felt lift the flap, so good for my 1 and 2-year-old. Then on this side, that is a spring pop-up, which goes along with everything that we're focusing on. This one I added out as well because this is all about weather, so going along with spring and kind of the changing of the seasons and weather. Bees to trees, poems about nature, swirl by swirl, about spirals in nature. And then up here, these three I had up on this shelf, so I just moved those over, and then I added in Farmer Boy to go along with our gardening unit. So that is what our bookshelf will look like this week. And then by the end of the week, I'll be switching it up and adding in some pond books, which I have over here. And then as far as planning goes for the week, a couple other things that I will pull out for Gia and Sethi are these little blocks. I pulled out the letters for garden. So for Gia, she can start to like manipulate the letters in that word. And then I also pulled out some of these cards. These are from a set, like 100 First Words, which are great for just younger kids to just be learning what things are, to verbally talk about it, but then also for pre-readers to learn what those words look like. So I keep them put away and I pull them out more for when it goes along with something we're already doing. And so I pulled out some things that you would find in a garden, like so some vegetables, but then also things like leaves, flowers, and grass. And then I did also pull out butterfly and frog because these could go along with pond or garden. And then also tree because we are studying the trees and exploring nature with children this week. A couple of things I will show you while I'm still waiting on some of this stuff to print. This is something that I use with mostly my 5-year-old for a variety of different reasons. So for example, tomorrow we're starting square foot gardening. So I just pulled out the magnets that would be things that you'd see in a garden. So I took out obviously like all these different animals, and I'll put these back away in the baggie, and I'll put this box in the closet just as a way to stay organized, because this isn't something I leave out, but I will label these so that she can start to learn and associate the words and how to spell them, and then she'll oftentimes rewrite them. So she's gotten really into the labeling, and I leave a few extra little pieces so that she can play around with them and she can completely recreate the scene. She's got a little marker, it has a little eraser on it, and then also there's some chalk here because the other side is a chalkboard, so she can play with that as well. So that'll just be something set out on the table for her. It'll help keep her little hands busy. If there's times during the lesson that are a little bit long for a 5-year-old, it'll give her something to do and just kind of some excitement and visual hands-on stuff for a new unit. Another thing that I want to show you while I'm waiting for some stuff to print are these free printables that I got from Stephanie Hathaway Designs. These are spring coloring pages, and obviously they have the tracing or the copy work there. I will use these. I've copied 2 of each, and I will use these with my 2-year-old and my 5-year-old. Obviously my 2-year-old will not trace yet, but he'll just color, but also get to see the words. I'll just put these into whatever lesson I think they best fit. So for example, like we'll be doing exploring nature with children this week, and it is a focus on trees this week. So we do have that oak tree printable that we'll use. We're doing square foot gardening, so things like the earthworm and the bee and the butterfly. I'll also reprint this in about a month because one of the weeks in exploring nature with children is butterflies, and so I'll pull that out again for them. robins will go along with a toddler busy bin that I'm putting together, which I'll show in another video, but I'm doing a bird busy bin. So the day that I introduce that busy bin, I'll also give them that page. And then this will go along with the At the Pond Ready to Read unit study that I'll be introducing towards the end of the week. So a free printable, just a fun way to kind of tie together with some other things that we're doing and help my 5-year-old with writing and spelling and reading, and then also help my 2-year-old feel a part of what we're doing in an appropriate way. Okay, so now everything is finally printed for the week. I have some organizing and sorting to do, and then I will show you how I'm going to set up the binders for everyone. Okay, so it is time to set up binders. You'll see I have everything organized out, like the covers, and then what's hole punch to go inside the binder for each of my 3 oldest kids. My 2-year-old's binder, I do a little bit differently. I'll probably do that in the morning, so I'll show you that after. And I'll start with my binder. I'll be taking this out because obviously we are done with space. And I did not print a cover for Square Foot Gardening for mine because for the first time, I printed it myself and had it bound at Staples because I really wanted to try that out. So I'm testing that out with just a couple of my teacher's guides for my spring curriculums to see if I want to do that at all next year. But what I've liked with the binders with the kids is if we're doing a few different units, everything's in one binder. So especially if we're like leaving the house to go do it at the park or something, I can just be like, grab your binder, and they pretty much have everything that they need. So now I am just pretty much clearing out the binders of all of the old units that we won't be continuing with. So ones that we're done with, specifically space being our main unit study that we did last. So I'll take out everything from space. I will leave in some stuff that they'll be continuing to use, but other than that, they're going to get mostly cleared out. And then I'll be putting in their Campfire Curriculums Square Foot Gardening units right in the front of their binder, since that's the new unit that we're starting. And then it will actually end up becoming more of a secondary unit after next week when we start Artists, which will be our main unit study. It's a gather round unit study that we'll be starting next week. But since this is a new curriculum that we have not worked with yet, I wanted to launch this sort of on its own so we get the feel for it for at least a week. Okay, so binders are completely set up. Again, I mentioned that my Square Foot Gardening Teacher's Guide, which is essentially just called the Adult Journal, not necessarily a teacher's guide for them. I am trying in a different version this time. So here's my binder. I just chose the Exploring Nature with Children as my cover for now. There's my last lesson and then the review for our last lesson in Burrows and Holes. So I just kind of put it to the side. Here is my Exploring Nature with Children stuff. And then I just put a page protector to just use as a bookmark. And then all of those free printable coloring pages I just put here because I'll use those as I see fit. I'm not going to put them in my 2- and 5-year-olds binders. I'm just going to give them to them on that, whatever day I decide. Because it is a tree week for Exploring Nature with Children, I did put the tree ones first, and then I have like the dandelion, since I think that will go along with our gardening unit, and then the bird, because I'm going to do that bird sensory bin, the worm, because that goes along with our gardening unit, the bee, the butterfly, the duck, the frog. So these in no particular order, but I have them there. Then what I did is snakes next, and this I'll use like on an easel to display that day that we're going to do this. So that's why I didn't want to hole punch it. It'll also hold my place. So this will go on an easel, and then this will go on an easel next to it because these are intended to be posters that they look at. And then my lesson and answer key in here, but then also like their pages I put in here, because the same thing with those coloring pages for my younger kids. I'll give these to them whenever I decide to do snakes, since I don't know when I'm going to do that yet. Then I have our O Freedom curriculum. This is one thing that did not come out of the binder because we will continue this even through next year. And then Foundations in Personal Finance. But this will only be in here another, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. And that is it for me. For my 5-year-old, she just has her first week of square foot gardening. She has her remaining pages for burrows and holes. And then something I do for some of the little cutout activities for like the books and the little like word family practices is I'll put them in a page protector like this. Her sight words I have in like a little, plastic zip pouch, but these are a little bit bigger. And then like the most recent book I'll leave here, and that doubles as like a bookmark, but also as a way to keep these together and keep them from getting all messed up. So that's her remaining pages for burrows and holes. And then I have her explore, she like wrote all over that with a crayon, but I have her Exploring Nature with Children guided journal here. And I did put a clear page protector just to help her so she's not frustrated trying to find where we're starting, just because she's a little bit younger. And then in the back, I did just leave her little number line. So she has that if she needs it. Then we have Jackson, my 9-year-old. So he has the elementary version. So you'll see he has his first week of the gardening unit in there. Then he has his guided journal. And then I did choose to keep his cursive for space because he didn't finish it. And so why not just keep it here for him so he can finish it up. So I'll leave that there because I haven't decided if I'm going to get cursive for our next gather round unit yet or not. I did purchase artists and we are starting that next week, but I'm not sure if we're going to do the cursive on it or not. There is also a typing one that I might get for them. And then lastly, my middle schoolers, which will look a lot like Jackson's. He has his first week of the gardening unit, his guided journal for Exploring Nature with Children, and then I did the same thing with Jackson where I kept like this stargazing page because I do want them to like explore more with the telescope, and so I figured that's almost like part of their nature journal. So I'll leave that with that. And then also I left his cursive writing. That is it. That is everyone's binders set up for at least the next week, other than my 2-year-old. So it is Monday morning. It's a beautiful spring day outside. The birds are chirping. I did get almost everything done last night that needed to be done for this week. I just need to set up the table for our new unit and just a couple little last minute things to do, like cut some pieces of the garland that I'm going to put in place of our Easter garland that I'll be taking down. So let me show you. Okay, so all of this will come down. So everything on that garland, our Easter sign. I'm contemplating keeping this tablecloth. I had it out for coloring eggs and painting because it's one that I don't care about getting dirty. And this week we will be doing some stuff, like experiment stuff. So I may keep it, I may take it off and put it back here and there. We'll see how it goes. So something else to share really quick in terms of free resources. I just wanted to show you the tomato garland that I'll be using to replace the Easter garland. These are free printable from Stephanie Hathaway Designs. So many wonderful free printables on her site, so definitely check that out. It's linked below. So I started cutting them out, but I did print 3 pages of them, so I have to print out a couple more, and then I'll put them up there. All right, so the kids are outside playing. I just finished setting up. You can see it's a very simple garland, like just a little something festive. And I have their binders ready to go. Oh, because it's a gardening unit, I wanted to do something somewhat healthy for them, but something also that they'd be excited about. So I did give them some veggies and just garlic hummus. And then for the special treat that I know they'll be super excited about are just some hash browns. And technically they are made from potatoes, so we'll talk about that. I made them some raspberry lemon tea. So no sugar, but I did add just like a teaspoon, maybe a little more than a teaspoon of honey in there. So they can have like an iced tea, and it's all natural. And just some little things on the table, like a couple of pieces of the garland on the table, and then the little shovels, just for something fun. So I'm about to call them in a minute. It sounds like my 1-year-old just woke up from her nap, if you can hear her. So I'll grab her and then I'll grab them and we will get started. So hopefully you enjoyed following along to see how I plan for the week, especially when I'm starting a new unit. So remember, a lot more work involved this week than on a typical homeschool week. This is just because we're starting a brand new unit. We haven't started a brand new unit in a while, so I only have to do this every couple of months, unless I just happen to have some new units starting at the same time, and then it might be a little bit more, but definitely not a weekly thing. So you got to see some of the stuff I do every week, like the books and the learning shelf, but then some extra prep like for a new unit you got to see as well. If you liked this video, click like, comment below what you found helpful or maybe what you would like to see in a future video, what would be helpful to know, if there's something that I could explain more or show more of, I'd be happy to do that. If you're not following me over on Instagram, make sure you do that. I'll link it below in the description box, but it's rooted_homeschool. I share more day-to-day updates. I show things I do with the lessons, activities, projects, books, different things like that, so you can follow along with us there. A lot of what you saw will be linked below. If it wasn't a free resource or a curriculum, you know, the extra learning materials, books, things like that, I have linked below in my Amazon storefront, so you can go check those out there. I will be uploading a video showing one of the lessons from this Campfire Curriculums square foot gardening unit, so I'll be sharing on that as well, so be on the lookout for that. And I'll be showing how I set up my learning shelves and how I create busy bins and all of those good things coming your way soon. So hope to see you in the next video. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you click subscribe, click the notifications button, and until next time, stay rooted.